All right, so after doing our Terror Zone tier list, which if you haven't seen that already, go ahead and check out that video. I'd really appreciate it. I went and I looked through our max roll list for the late game tier list. So I took every single build here and then went and looked at the starter gear. The idea of the tier list I'm about to show you is what builds on their starter gear equivalent can gain access to the most high quality terror zones. So if you're looking at a Lightning Fury Amazon, but let's say she only has, IES on her javelins, is using a lore and a piece, generally okay unique items, something that you would have at the end of a normal playthrough to hell difficulty, as well as random charms from farming out the cows, etc., etc. You get the idea. Where would their budget or starter version of their builds place on a tier list? To be able to construct it, again, using the table that we have for resistances according to area, what kind of monsters are there, overall mobility in the areas, density in the areas, and the challenge of farming there, we went and we looked at the top tier terror zones, so S+, S, and A terror zones, and tried to get an idea of where do starter versions of builds fall onto that tier list. So we have a good amount of builds here. I'm going to very quickly go through them. In the S+ tier, so I argue the best builds for farming the best zones with a little bit of weight thrown on it for can also farm the rest of the zones really well. And I think ahead of their class are Hammerden, Fist of Heaven's Paladin, Blizzard Sorceress, and Lightning Sentry Assassin. Walking into the S tier of builds, these are going to be builds that can farm a lot of places, are strong even though they are a starter or budget area. They're going to have access to multiple damage types, but maybe their mobility or their overall power scale isn't as close to the S+ type of farmers, and they're going to have a little bit of a harder time getting through areas. So here you have the Summon Necromancer, Freezing Arrow Amazon, which is always going to dip a little bit into Exploding Arrow, Fissure Druid, and Bone Spear Necromancer. In the A tier, we're starting to get into builds where they will come online with a bit better gear, and they may quickly evolve into a stronger build, but just starting off with basic starter gear, so a spirit, a stealth, a lore cap, Ancient's Pledge, or maybe a spirit shield, something like a rhyme shield, a couple rare rings, stuff like that. They feel okay, they will have access to a lot of different farming zones, but they're not able to perform at the same level, especially at higher player count, where maybe the S tier and the S+ tier will continue to excel at higher player count, and maybe they fall off a little bit. So here you have Poison Nova Necromancer, weaker than Summon Necromancer because it has a weaker Corpse Explosion on the same set of gear, and is waiting for key gear pieces before it can really come online. Fireball Meteor, Double Throw Barbarian, Fire Blast Assassin, which focuses on Death Sentry and Fire Blast for its major damage output, Tornado Druid, Wake of Fire Assassin, and Frozen Orb Sorceress. So again, these will start to feel a bit weaker on higher player count, or their mix of damage is good and is very versatile, but their overall output is slightly lower. That's what gets them into the A tier here. In the B tier, we're going to be looking at people like Lightning Fury Amazon, Lightning Sorceress, Nova Sorceress, Fireball plus Blizzard Sork, Meteor Frozen Orb Sork, Holy Fire Zeal Paladin, and then Pure Corpse Explosion Necromancer. In the B tier, these are not going to be bad in the majority of places, but they are facing a lot of resistances that they can't break easily or need to manually break with a wand of lower resistance. They're also typically needing to split so many points up amongst the different parts of their hybrid build in the form of the sorceresses, where again, their total damage output is going to be fine on players 1 to 3, but the moment you hit players 4 or 5 settings, they're really going to start struggling. In the C tier, these are all competent builds. They're going to do fine players 1 to 3. They might have mobility issues. They may need some higher tier gear before they really come online. And they are also going to run into more problems, probably from a mobility standpoint and being unable to deal in the more dangerous areas. So here you're going to have Lightning Strike Amazon, so using a spear or a javelin for Lightning Strike instead of Lightning Fury. Fireball with Nova, Physical Zealer, Strafe and Multi-Shot Amazon, Plague Javazon, Frenzy Barb, Fury Wolf, Blade Fury Assassin, mostly she has access to Corpse Explosion, Summon Druid, Phoenix Strike, and Firewall Sorceress. In the D tier, they're lacking AoE. I believe that the strongest part of a terror zone is the fact that you are able to clear out massive quantities of monsters who aren't always going to be very difficult to kill, but you do need AoE potential. And any area where, let's say the Frigid Highlands, where you're probably just killing the first two super uniques, Eldritch and Sharptooth, all these builds work fine, but the moment that you throw them into something like Cows or Endurance of Hate, Worldstone Keep, heck, even Chaos Sanctuary, on starter gear, they're really not going to survive well and have difficulty getting through those areas. So you have Berserk Barbarian, Leap Attack Barb, Hydra Sorceress, Dragon Talon Assassin, Warcry Barb, Whirlwind Barb, Fend Amazon, and Fireclaw Druid. Then in the F tier, these are builds that are either too niche or bad. I'm sorry, Rabies, you're just not good on starter gear. But here you have the Smiter, a Goldfine Barbarian, and a Rabies Druid. You're not really going to be able to bring them many places. They are niche builds in their own rights. Like, they're already a very specific type of farming strategy, but they are in the endgame tier list, so I wanted to include them. But this is what strictly an F tier build looks like. You just can't bring these people into the vast majority of terror zones and get anything out of them. But yeah, there you go. This is what I think you should use. I wouldn't say just take my word for it, right? If you have a different experience, you have a different experience. But if you've been wondering, like, what kind of builds can I bring into terror zones? What's a good starter, considering terror zones are going to pretty drastically change up the meta? And what do I have access to now for like good farming zones? Consider looking at least B tier and up for the different terror zones that I've labeled here, and then consider builds that are going to succeed well in those types of places. Again, if you haven't seen my video or looked at the sheet where I have gone over each terror zone, broken down the resistances, what you need to break them, what kind of gear you need to break them, consider checking out that video as well. I'll leave a little card here, and you can look at this, just copy and paste it into your own worksheet, considering I work in them quite often, so I end up filtering it a lot. This is a breakdown of what builds are probably going to look like on starter gear, and the ones that are going to overperform versus the ones that are going to underperform. I hope that this helps you make decisions walking into the second season with patch 2.5, and as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.